6 months after the Battle of Kelvar 7, Sanctuary Prime had been rebuilt. The station gleamed in the light of the system's star, but now it was different. Human weapons platforms surrounded it. Union and human ships patrolled together. Peace remained, but it was defended peace now. A memorial station orbited where the final battle had occurred. On its hull, carved in every Union language and human script, were names. Thousands of them. Human and Union together. Those who had died so others could live. Taiwan stood before the wall, his fingers touching the names of friends. Jisoo stood beside him. They came here often. Remembering. Honoring. Do you think they knew? Jisoo asked quietly. That their sacrifice would change everything? They knew they were protecting people, Taiwan replied. That was enough for them. Behind them, a group of mixed-species cadets approached. Human, Threxian, Luminar, and others. They wore the uniform of the new Galactic Defense Coalition. Their instructor was Dongjun, now Major Dongjun. His squad had survived the final battle, though all carried scars. Class attention, Dongjun ordered. The cadets stood straight, facing the memorial. These names represent a choice. The choice to stand, to fight, to protect. Study them, honor them, and remember what they died for. Young Rin stood among the cadets. She wore the uniform with pride. She was 16 now, old enough to begin training. Bora had officially adopted her 2 months after the battle. The first legal cross-species adoption in Union history. Bora arrived now, medical kit over her shoulder. She was teaching at the new Integrated Medical Academy, training both human and Union doctors in combat medicine. She had argued with the administration about it. They don't need to learn this, the Union educators had said. War is over. War is never over, Bora had replied. Hope for peace. Prepare for war. That's what humans taught you. The Academy had agreed. Now Union doctors learned to treat injuries they hoped they would never see again. But if they did, they would be ready. In orbit, Captain Hyun commanded a mixed fleet on patrol. His tactical officer was now Kelvin, the Threxian who had frozen in the first battle. The pilot had grown, learned. He was a good officer now, though he still asked Hyun for advice constantly. Captain, we're getting strange readings from Sector 9, Kelvin reported. Define strange, Hyun said. Energy signatures consistent with Varathi vessels. Small group. Maybe scouts, Hyun stood. Battle stations. But don't open fire unless they do. Let's see what they want. The Varathi ships appeared. 3 of them, broken, damaged. They transmitted a signal, not an attack. A request. They're asking for help, the communications officer said, shocked. Their ships are dying. They're requesting asylum. Hyun looked at his crew. After everything, could they show mercy to the enemy? He thought of Admiral Daehyun. What would the old man have done? Grant asylum, Hyun ordered. Bring them in carefully. Medical teams on standby. He saw his crew's faces. They were controlled by the overmind. Without it, they're just creatures trying to survive. We'll give them that chance. The Varathi were taken to quarantine facilities. Xenobiologists, including Jisoo, studied them. Without the overmind's control, they were different. Still dangerous, but not mindlessly hostile. They could be reasoned with. They were slaves, Jisoo explained to the council. The overmind controlled everything. Now they're free but lost. They need guidance. You want us to help them? Olmath asked. After what they did? I want us to be better than our worst impulses, Jisoo replied. That's what humans taught me. We can be violent. We can be brutal. But we choose not to be when there's another option. The council debated. In the end, they agreed to try. Small groups of Varathi were integrated into work programs, watched carefully, but given a chance, some succeeded. Others had to be contained. But the fact that they tried, that showed how much the Union had changed. Hyun's technology integration program had transformed Union vessels. They now combined the best of both civilizations. Union energy efficiency and sensors with human armor and weapons. The ships weren't as tough as purely human vessels, but they were combat-capable now. She demonstrated the latest cruiser design to mixed crews. The railguns are mounted here, she explained, pointing to the weapons arrays. Human engineering, Union power systems. We can actually hurt enemies now. A Luminar officer raised a crystalline hand. But should we? Weapons make us like the aggressors. Weapons make us able to defend ourselves, Hyun corrected. There's a difference. Humans don't fight because they love violence. They fight because sometimes it's necessary. We can learn that lesson without losing who we are. Young Su's therapy programs had evolved. He now trained counselors from every species. They specialized in helping people cope with the reality of danger. The Union had lived in innocence for so long. Learning that the galaxy was dangerous had traumatized many. It's okay to be afraid, Young Su told his students. Fear keeps us cautious, but we can't let it paralyze us. We face the fear, acknowledge it, and then we act anyway. He thought of the human Marines he had counseled. So many carried scars inside and out, but they kept going, kept protecting. That strength came from accepting fear, not denying it. Subin ran the flight academy now. Her students were mixed species groups learning combat flying. She was a demanding instructor, but fair. She pushed them hard because their lives would depend on their skills. Again, she ordered as a Threxian student botched a maneuver. You're thinking too much. Trust your training. React. The student tried again. Better this time. Good, Subin said. You're learning. Remember, I froze my first time in real combat too. Everyone does. The difference is getting back in the cockpit. After class, a young human pilot approached her. Commander, why do you teach them? They'll never be as good as human pilots. Subin looked at him sharply. Never say never. They have different strengths. Threxian multitasking is incredible. Luminar spatial awareness is better than ours. They're different, not inferior. We teach them because strong allies make us all safer. The pilot nodded, properly chastened. In the council chambers, Taewan and Velrin worked together on defense policy. They had become close friends over the months. The human ambassador and the Threxian chancellor, building something new. Some members still resist permanent military integration, Velrin said, reviewing reports. They fear losing our peaceful identity. You haven't lost it, Taewan said. You've enhanced it. Peace without the ability to defend it is just waiting to be conquered. Velrin sighed. I know, but change is hard. For so long, we believed violence was never the answer. Sometimes it's the only answer, Taewan said. But here's what you taught us. You taught us that fighting should be the last resort, not the first. That mercy has value. That protecting life matters more than destroying enemies. We needed that reminder. We both learned from each other, Velrin said. A priority signal interrupted them. Deep space sensors had detected a distress call. Another species far from Union space under attack by unknown hostiles. The council assembled quickly. They reviewed the data. A civilization facing extinction from raiders. It's not our responsibility, one representative argued. They're too far away. We barely survived our own crisis, which is exactly why we have to help, Velrin said. We know what it's like to be helpless, to pray for allies who might not come. We came through that fire. Now we pass that gift forward. The debate was shorter than it would have been a year ago. The vote was unanimous. They would respond. Yun's mixed fleet was dispatched. Union ships and human ships together. As they prepared to jump, Hyun addressed his crew. A year ago, you didn't know how to fight. Now you do. But remember why we fight. Not for conquest. Not for glory. We fight to protect those who can't protect themselves. That's what makes us different from raiders and conquerors. The fleet jumped to FTL. In the command center, Velrin watched them go. Taewan stood beside him. They're ready, Taewan said. Will they come back? Velrin asked. Most of them, Taewan replied honestly. We lose people in every fight. That's the price. But they go anyway because it's right. On Sanctuary Prime, young Rin watched the fleet depart from the observation deck. She wore her cadet uniform with pride. In a few years, she would graduate. Maybe serve on one of those ships. The thought scared her. But Bora had taught her that courage wasn't the absence of fear. Come home safe, she whispered to the stars. The fleet arrived in the distant system 3 days later. The raiders were there attacking helpless civilians. Hyun transmitted on all frequencies. This is Captain Hyun of the Galactic Defense Coalition. You are attacking innocents. Stand down or we will engage. The raiders laughed. They had never heard of the coalition. They saw Union ships and assumed easy prey. We'll take your ships too, the raider leader transmitted. You civilized fools are all the same. We used to be, Hyun replied. Then we met some Deathworlders. They taught us better. The fleet attacked. Human ferocity combined with Union precision. The raiders had expected victims. They found warriors instead. Kelvin flew as fighter with the skills Subin had taught him. He was afraid, but he flew anyway. Beside him, human pilots covered his position. They were a team now. A pack. Luminar Marines boarded a raider vessel following tactics Dong Jun had drilled into them. They moved with purpose, protecting each other, fighting smart. Admiral Dae Hyun arrived with the reinforcements from Earth. His flagship was old, scarred from 100 battles. He was older too, with gray in his hair and lines on his face that told stories of hard decisions. He took command of the combined human fleet without ceremony. Velrin met him in the command center. The admiral studied the tactical display with experienced eyes. 20,000 Varathi vessels converging on their position, 2,000 human ships to stop them. "We can't win this," Olmath said quietly. "Winning isn't always about walking away," Daehyun replied. His voice was rough but steady. "Sometimes it's about what you protect, who you save. We've got 72 hours before they arrive. Let's make them count." He activated the fleet-wide channel. Every ship, every crew member heard his words. "I won't lie to you," he began. "Most of us won't see home again. The numbers are against us. The odds are impossible. But here's what I know about humans. We don't quit. We don't surrender. And we don't abandon people who need our protection." He paused, looking at the faces on his screen. Young and old, veterans and first-timers. All of them afraid. All of them staying anyway. Today we don't fight for territory or glory. We fight so that peace remains possible. We fight so these good people who never hurt anyone can live to see tomorrow. We fight because someone has to stand between the darkness and the light. That's what we are. That's what we've always been. Earth made us strong so we could protect the weak. Let's show the galaxy what that means, the fleet acknowledged. No cheering, no bravado, just quiet acceptance of what was coming. On Sanctuary Prime, the evacuation continued. Civilian transports launched in steady streams protected by human escort fighters. Subin flew patrol, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. "Wraith, we've got stragglers," her wingman called. "Civilian transport is lagging behind." Subin checked her scope. The transport had engine trouble. It was falling behind the convoy, becoming vulnerable. She calculated quickly. If the Varathi scouts found it, everyone aboard would die. "I see it," she said. "Form up. We're staying with them until they're clear. That puts us outside the defensive perimeter." "I know." They flew escort for the damaged transport, guiding it toward safety. Hours passed. The transport limped along while Subin and her squadron watched for enemies. Then the scouts came. 6 Varathi fighters, fast and deadly. They saw the easy target and moved to attack. "Here they come," Subin said calmly. By that transport time, her squadron engaged. 3 human fighters against 6 Varathi. The odds weren't good, but they fought anyway. Subin's hands moved with practiced precision. Her fighter danced through enemy fire. She destroyed 1 Varathi, then another, but there were too many. Her wingman took a hit. His fighter spiraled away, damaged but still flying. Another pilot ejected as her ship exploded. Subin was alone now. 3 Varathi fighters left. She could run, save herself. The transport was almost to safety. Instead, she turned back toward the enemies. Her weapons were nearly empty. Her shields were failing. But that transport held 200 refugees, people who deserved to live. She fought with everything she had, shot down 1 more Varathi. Then her ship took critical damage. Alarms screamed. Fire spread through the cockpit. "Wraith is hit," she reported calmly. "Transport is clear." "I'm punching out," she ejected. Her escape pod tumbled through space while the transport jumped to FTL, carrying its precious cargo to safety. The rescue ships found her 6 hours later. Burns covered her arms. Her leg was broken, but she smiled when they asked if she was okay. "Did the transport make it?" she asked. "Yes. All 200 passengers safe." "Good," Subin said and passed out. Deep in Varathi space, Insiok and his special operations team infiltrated the enemy fleet. They had volunteered for a one-way mission. Their target was the Overmind's carrier, the central intelligence that controlled the swarm. Insiok was 43 years old. He had a wife and 2 children back on Earth. He had written them letters explaining why he had to do this, why some things were worth dying for. The team moved through the organic corridors of the carrier. They placed antimatter charges at critical points. The Varathi didn't detect them. Humans were small, quiet when they needed to be. Predators knew how to stalk prey. They reached the core, the Overmind itself, a massive pulsing brain that glowed with sick light. It sensed them then. Alarms shrieked. Warriors came from every direction. "Set the charges," Insiok ordered. "I'll buy you time." His team looked at him. They knew what that meant, sir. That's an order, he said. Set the charges. Get to the extraction point. Tell my family I love them. He turned and walked toward the approaching swarm. His rifle fired methodically. The Varathi came in waves. He killed them steadily, calmly, buying seconds with his life. His team set the charges and ran. They made it to their escape craft and launched. Behind them, the antimatter detonated. The Overmind died. For the first time in its existence, it felt fear in its final moments. Fear of these creatures from the death world who fought without hope but never without purpose. The Varathi fleet faltered. Without central coordination, the swarm became confused. But there were still thousands of ships. Still too many. The main battle began at dawn station time. The Varathi came like a wave of darkness. The human fleet met them head-on. Dongjun's Marines boarded enemy ships again and again. He had lost so many soldiers. Each name burned in his memory. But they kept fighting. In one corridor, surrounded by enemies, his squad ran out of ammunition. Fix bayonets, Dongjun ordered. They fought with knives and bare hands. Humans against monsters. Deathworlders showing what evolution on a harsh planet created. They were smaller than the Varathi. But they were meaner. Tougher. They didn't know how to quit. Bora moved through the chaos, treating wounded wherever she found them. Human, Union, it didn't matter. She saved everyone she could reach. Energy bolts burned past her head. She ignored them. Someone needed help. That was all that mattered. On the bridge, Admiral Dae-hyun watched his fleet dying. Ship after ship went dark, but they were holding the line. The evacuation was almost complete. Sir, the Varathi are breaking through Section 7, Tactical reported. Send reinforcements. We don't have any left, sir. Everyone's engaged. Dae-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he stood. Then we'll plug the gap ourselves. Helm, take us into that breach. His flagship, that old scarred vessel, moved forward. It was designed to command fleets, not brawl in close combat. But it had weapons. It had armor. It had a crew willing to fight. They plunged into the Varathi formation. At point-blank range, they fired everything. Railguns hammered. Missiles launched. They rammed enemy ships deliberately, using their mass as a weapon. On Sanctuary Prime, Velrin watched the battle with Taiwan. The displays showed the impossible. The human fleet should have broken by now, should have run. But they held position, protecting the evacuation routes with their dying ships. Why? Velrin whispered. Why do they keep fighting? Because they promised, Taiwan said simply. His eyes were wet. We promised to protect you. Humans keep their promises. A new signal came through. The evacuation was complete. Every civilian, every Union military vessel that wouldn't fight, all safe. All that remained was the human fleet in the station. Tell them to retreat, Velrin said. They've done enough. Tell them to save themselves, Taiwan shook his head. They won't leave until you do. Then we'll stay, said a voice behind them. They turned. Chancellor Velrin wasn't alone. With him stood representatives from every Union species, and behind them Union military officers who had been evacuated but came back. We've been cowards, Velrin said. We let you fight for us. Die for us no more. This is our galaxy too. Time we defended it. Olmath stepped forward. His crystalline body shimmered with determination. We studied your tactics, analyzed your strategies. We'll never be as strong as humans, but we can learn. We can try. The Union ships moved into formation. They were clumsy, unpracticed. But they were there, fighting alongside the humans instead of hiding behind them. A Varathi battle group targeted a damaged human destroyer. Before they could finish it, Union ships intercepted. They took hits meant for their human allies. Their shields failed. Their hulls breached. But they held position. On the Threxian cruiser, young Kelvin, the pilot who had frozen in the first battle, flew his fighter with shaking hands. Fear still gripped him, but he flew anyway. His shots weren't as accurate as Subin's. His maneuvers weren't as smooth. But he was there, fighting. A Varathi fighter got behind him. He couldn't shake it. This was it. He was going to die. Then human fighters appeared, destroying his pursuer. You're doing great, Kelvin, came Subin's voice. She had recovered enough to fly again. Stay with me. I'll teach you. She coached him through the battle. Humans protecting their Union students even while fighting for survival. Dongjun's squad linked up with a Luminar military unit. The crystalline soldiers had never fought before. They were terrified but trying. Dongjun showed them how to hold positions, how to focus fire, how to survive. Like this, he said, demonstrating weapon handling. Work together. Watch each other's backs. You can do this. The Luminars followed his example. They fought clumsily, but they fought. All across the battlefield, the scene repeated. Humans teaching, protecting, leading by example. And the Union, those peaceful species. The medical bay on Sanctuary Prime never slept anymore. Jisoo moved between beds, treating wounded from both species. Her hands were steady despite 3 days without real rest. She checked a human marine's injuries, then moved to help a Luminar whose crystalline structure had cracked in the battle. The Union doctors watched her work with mixed emotions. She was efficient, skilled, but some of her methods disturbed them. She pushed damaged bodies to keep fighting. She used drugs that caused pain but kept soldiers alive. On their peaceful worlds, they had focused on comfort. Jisoo focused on survival. "Why do you do it this way?" asked a Threxian doctor named Kelvin. "Your medicine is so harsh." Jisoo didn't look up from her work. "Because harsh keeps people alive. On Earth, we learned you can't always choose between comfortable and surviving. Sometimes surviving is all that matters." In another section of the station, Young-Soo worked with traumatized Union soldiers. The psychologist sat across from a young Threxian fighter pilot who had seen his entire squadron destroyed in the first battle. "I froze," the pilot said, his voice shaking. "The Varathi came at us and I froze. My friends died because I couldn't move." Young-Soo leaned forward. "Fear is normal. Your people haven't faced war in thousands of years. Your reaction was natural. But the humans don't freeze. They charge into death without hesitation. What's wrong with me?" "Nothing is wrong with you," Young-Soo said firmly. "Humans freeze too. We just trained ourselves to act through the fear. We had to. Our world didn't give us time to think. React or die. That training came from millions of years of evolution and thousands of years of fighting each other." The pilot looked down. "I'm useless then." "We all are." "No," Young-Soo said. "You're here. You got in that fighter. You tried. That's courage. Courage isn't fearlessness. It's acting despite the fear." He paused. "Would you fly again?" "I'm terrified. That's not what I asked." The pilot was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Yes, I would." Young-Soo smiled. "Then you're braver than you know." In the council chambers, the debate grew heated. Some representatives argued the humans were saviors. Others suggested they were just as dangerous as the Varathi. Both were predators. Both used violence. Velrun tried to maintain order, but the fear was spreading. They had seen what humans could do. The casual brutality, the efficiency of killing. What happened when the Varathi were gone? Would humans turn on the Union? Hyun heard the debate from the observation deck. He had come to review fleet positions, but the voices carried through the open door. He listened to them question human motives, question human nature, compare his people to the monsters they were fighting. He walked into the chamber. The debate stopped. "Continue," Hyun said. "I'm interested in your conclusions." Velrun stood. "Captain, we didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," Hyun interrupted. His voice was calm, but something in his eyes made the room feel smaller. "You're afraid of us. That's smart. We are dangerous. We are predators. Every human is descended from creatures that hunted and killed to survive." The representatives shifted uncomfortably. "But here's what you're missing," Hyun continued. "Being a predator means we can choose our prey. We hunt things that hurt the innocent. We hunt slavers and tyrants and swarms that eat worlds. We chose you as our pack. Do you understand? We chose to protect you." He walked to the star map. "On Earth we had predators everywhere. Creatures with claws and fangs that hunted us. We were prey once. Weak, small. But we survived by working together, by protecting each other, by becoming smart enough and tough enough that nothing could hunt us anymore." He turned back. "We remember being prey. We remember being afraid. That's why we fight for you. Because someone has to stand between the predators and the innocent." Olmath spoke carefully. "But violence is violence. How are you different from them?" "Choice," Hyun said simply. "The Varathi don't choose. They consume. They destroy. They can't stop. We can. We choose to fight. We choose who to protect. We choose to follow rules even in war. That choice makes all the difference." The chamber was silent. Then a new alarm sounded. Emergency. All channels. On the lower levels, a Varathi scout team had infiltrated during repairs. They hunted through the corridors looking for victims. They found a group of civilian refugees, Threxians and Luminars huddled in a recreation area. Among them was Rin, a young Threxian girl. She had lost her parents in the first attacks. Now she pressed against the wall as the Varathi warriors broke through the door. The creatures moved forward, claws extended. The civilians screamed. Then Dongjun's squad arrived. 5 Marines in full combat armor. They put themselves between the Varathi and the civilians without hesitation. "Contact rear," someone shouted. More Varathi came from behind. The Marines were surrounded. "Form up," Dongjun ordered. "Defensive circle. Protect the civilians." The Varathi attacked from all sides. The fighting was brutal and close. One Marine went down, his armor breached. Another took a claw strike that would have killed an unarmored human. He stumbled but kept fighting. Bora was there working frantically. She pulled the wounded Marine back, sealed his suit, injected trauma drugs. "Stay with me," she demanded. The Marine coughed blood inside his helmet. "The girl," he gasped. "I've got her," Bora promised. "Just stay alive." The battle lasted 3 minutes. 3 minutes of absolute violence. When it ended, 2 Marines were dead. The others were badly wounded. But every civilian was alive. Rin stood trembling, covered in the blood of the Marines who had died protecting her. She looked at Bora, who was trying to revive one of the fallen despite knowing it was hopeless. "Why?" Rin whispered. "Why did they die for me?" Bora looked up. Her face was streaked with tears and blood. "Because you matter. Because protecting you matters. Because that's what we do." "I'm nobody," Rin said. "I'm just a child." "You're someone," Bora said firmly. "That's enough." The incident spread through the station. The Union representatives came to see the dead Marines. They saw the defensive positions, the way the humans had stood their ground with death coming from all sides, the way they had chosen civilian lives over their own. That night, Velrun found Taiwan in the memorial hall. The ambassadors stood before the wall where they had placed the names of the fallen Marines. "I heard the council's debate," Taiwan said without turning. "They think we're dangerous." "They're frightened," Velrun replied. "We've lived in peace so long. Violence is alien to us, but necessary sometimes," Taiwan said. "I wish it wasn't. I wish the universe was kind. But it's not. The strong prey on the weak unless someone stands in the way. Those Marines today, they knew they would die." "Probably," Taiwan agreed. "But they did it anyway. That's what we are. We're the ones who stand in the way. We take the hits. We pay the price so others don't have to." Velrun was quiet for a long moment. "I'm sorry we questioned you. Questioned your people." "Don't be," Taiwan said. "Question us. Hold us accountable. Make sure we stay on the right path. Power without accountability becomes tyranny." He finally turned to face Velrun. "We're strong, yes. We're dangerous, yes. But we choose to serve something bigger than ourselves. We choose to protect. Never let us forget that choice." In the medical bay, Jisoo was finishing her shift when Haun arrived. The engineer was young, brilliant, and had been working on adapting human technology for Union ships. "I've completed the weapons integration," Haun said excitedly. "I can give your ships railguns, better armor, stronger shields. We could make the Union fleet actually combat effective." Jisoo looked at her. "Have you presented this to the council?" "Yes, they refused. Said the technology was too brutal, too focused on destruction." Haun's excitement faded. "We could save lives with these upgrades, but they won't take them. They're afraid," Jisoo said. "Afraid of losing who they are, of becoming like us." "But you're not monsters," Jisoo smiled sadly. "We're survivors from a death world. Sometimes survival requires things that peaceful people find horrifying. They have to decide if they're willing to change. We can't force them." Deep space scanners registered a new contact, multiple contacts, hundreds, thousands. The main Varathi fleet was coming. Not an advance force, everything. The entire swarm converging on this position. The tactical analysis was clear. The human fleet couldn't win. There were simply too many enemies. Captain Hyun studied the data without expression. Around him, his staff waited for orders. "Start evacuation protocols," he said. "Get all civilians off the station. Union military too if they won't fight." "And us, sir?" asked his tactical officer. "We hold position," Hyun said. "We're the rear guard. We buy time for everyone to escape." "Sir, the odds—" "I know the odds," Hyun said. "We're staying anyway." Word spread through the human fleet. They were going to make a last stand. Most of them would die, but they would give the Union time to run, time to survive. In her quarters, Subin recorded a message to her family back on Earth. Dongjun wrote letters to the families of his fallen Marines. Young-Soo thought about all the sessions he would never finish. Jisoo looked at the patients she wouldn't see recover, but none of them asked to leave. None of them ran. They were human. They were Deathworlders. And they had made a promise to protect these peaceful people. The Varathi fleet was 3 days away. The final battle was coming. The void near Sanctuary Prime filled with movement. On the command deck, Velrun watched the displays with growing dread. Red markers appeared by the hundreds. The Varathi advance fleet had arrived. Captain Hyun stood beside him, perfectly calm. The human captain was tall and lean, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He studied the enemy formation without any sign of fear. "They outnumber us 4-1, Olmath said quietly. "I've fought worse odds," Hyun replied. He touched his communication device. "All ships, defensive pattern 7. Union vessels, fall back to support positions. We'll handle the initial contact." Velrun wanted to protest. The Union ships should fight too. But he had seen the battle simulations. His people's vessels were designed for exploration, not war. They would only die uselessly if they engaged. The Varathi ships moved forward. Massive organic vessels that pulsed with sick light. They had crushed every fleet they faced. Now they came for the humans with the same confidence. "They're charging weapons," reported a Union officer. "Let them," Hyun said. "Wait for it." The Varathi opened fire. Energy beams crossed the void, enough firepower to vaporize a moon. The human fleet didn't dodge. They accelerated forward directly into the attack. Velrun's heart stopped. Suicide. The humans were committing suicide. Then the human shields activated. Not energy shields like the Union used, but something else. The Varathi beams hit and scattered. Some penetrated, burning into armor, but the human ships kept coming. "Shields at 70%, reported Hyun's tactical officer. "Armor holding. Return fire," Hyun ordered. All batteries, the human ships erupted with violence. Missiles streaked across space. Energy weapons fired in synchronized patterns. But the weapons that shocked Velrun most were the railguns. Physical projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. They punched through Varathi shields like they weren't there, tearing into organic hulls. "Impossible," breathed Olmath. "Projectile weapons shouldn't work against modern shields." "They work fine," Hyun said, "if you hit hard enough. Momentum doesn't care about energy dispersion." The human fleet hit the Varathi line like a hammer. Ships rammed each other deliberately. The humans didn't avoid collisions. They aimed for them. Their reinforced hulls could take the impact. The Varathi vessels couldn't. On one of the human destroyers, Lieutenant Dongjun prepared his Marines for boarding action. They stood in the launch bay checking weapons and armor. These weren't the slim, elegant suits the Union used. Human armor was thick, heavy, covered in weapons. "Listen up," Dongjun said. His voice was rough, scarred from breathing smoke in a dozen battles. "The Varathi fight in swarms. They'll try to overwhelm you with numbers. Don't let them. Stay together. Watch your sectors. Remember your training." The Marines checked their rifles. The weapons looked brutal, simple, designed to keep working even when everything else failed. The destroyer shuddered as it collided with a Varathi hive ship. Magnetic locks engaged. Cutting torches burned through the hull. "Breach in 3, 2, 1. Go!" The Marines poured through. Inside the Varathi vessel, the air was hot and wet. Organic walls pulsed with horrible life. Creatures emerged from every opening, insect-like monsters with slashing claws and acid spit. The Marines opened fire. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Varathi fell in waves, but more came. Always more. Dongjun fought in the front line. His rifle hammered through his targets. When it ran empty, he drew his combat knife. When a Varathi warrior leaped at him, he caught it, turned its momentum, and slammed it into the wall. The creature's exoskeleton cracked. He finished it with his knife. Behind the main line, Medic Bora pulled a wounded Marine back to cover. Energy fire splashed around them. She ignored it, focusing on stopping the bleeding, injecting combat drugs, getting her patient stable. "Bora, fall back," Dongjun shouted. "When I'm done," she shouted back, working with quick, precise movements. The wounded Marine gasped as the drugs hit his system. His pain faded. He grabbed his rifle and got back up. "You're insane," he muttered. "Yeah," Bora agreed. "Now get back to your position." Above the battle, Subin flew her fighter through the chaos. Her call sign was Wraith, and she had earned it. Her ship twisted through space in patterns that would kill most pilots. The G-forces were crushing, but humans could take it. Deathworld bodies built to survive. She hunted Varathi fighter craft with cold precision. Her targeting system locked. She fired. Enemy destroyed. Lock. Fire. Destroyed. Again and again. Wraith, you have 3 on your tail, her wingman called. I know, she said calmly. She spun her fighter in a way that violated every safety protocol. The pursuing Varathi couldn't match the turn. They flew past. She was behind them now. 3 quick shots. 3 kills, how do you do that? Her wingman asked. Practice, Subin said, and bones that don't shatter from acceleration. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Varathi threw everything at the humans. Suicide drones, bioweapons, overwhelming numbers. Nothing worked. On the bridge, Velrin watched in amazement. Human ships took terrible damage but kept fighting. He saw a destroyer with half its hull blown away still firing weapons. He saw Marines boarding Varathi vessels and actually winning. He saw fighters pulling maneuvers that should be impossible. They're retreating, Olmath said, his voice full of wonder. It was true. The Varathi swarm, which had never retreated before, was pulling back. Their formation broke. Ships fled into FTL, running from the humans. The human fleet didn't pursue. They held position, weapons ready, protecting Sanctuary Prime. Slowly, the communications filled with cheering. Union crews celebrating their first victory in months. But Velrin noticed the humans weren't celebrating. They were already preparing reports, analyzing battle data, planning for the next attack. Don't you want to celebrate? Velrin asked Hyun. The captain shook his head. This was a skirmish. A probe, they tested us. Now they know we can fight. Next time they'll come with everything. But we won, Velrin said. We survived, Hyun corrected. Winning comes later. He looked at the displays showing damage reports. We lost 3 ships, 217 crew. They have names, families, every victory costs something. Velrin understood then. Humans could fight, yes. They were incredibly good at violence. But they didn't love it. They carried the weight of every loss. In the medical bay, Jisoo worked alongside Union doctors. She treated a Threxian soldier whose limbs had been burned by Varathi acid. The Threxian looked at her with fear and pain. It's okay, Jisoo said softly. I've got you. You're safe now. You're so strong, the Threxian whispered. So fierce. Are all humans like this? Jisoo paused in her work. We're strong because we had to be. Our world made us this way. But strength isn't just about fighting. It's about protecting. It's about standing between danger and those who can't defend themselves. She finished treating the wound. You're brave too. You faced the Varathi. That took courage. I was terrified, the Threxian admitted. So were we, Jisoo said. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite the fear. Across the station, Dongjun gathered his Marines. They were cleaning weapons, repairing armor, treating minor wounds. The lieutenant looked at each face. Some showed exhaustion. Others showed the bright-eyed intensity of surviving combat. Good work today, he said simply. Rest up. We go again tomorrow. Sir, one young Marine asked. Why do the Varathi run from us but not from them? He gestured toward the Union representatives watching from a distance. Dongjun thought carefully. Because we're from Earth. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We're built different. Stronger bones. Faster reflexes. We can take more damage. But that's not why they ran. Then why? They ran because we don't give up. Ever. A Varathi thinks if it hurts you enough, you'll stop fighting. But humans? We fight harder when we're hurt. We fight when there's no hope. We fight because surrender isn't in our nature. He looked at the Union station. These people, they're peaceful. They're kind. They need protection. We're going to give it to them. The Marines nodded. They understood. That night, Velrin found Taewon looking out at the stars. The ambassador stood alone, his face tired. Your people are remarkable, Velrin said. They're survivors, Taewon replied. Earth taught us to survive. I'm grateful you came, but I'm also frightened. Such capacity for violence. Taewon turned to face him. We are violent. We won't lie about that. But we choose what we're violent toward. We chose to protect you. That choice matters. Velrin was quiet for a moment. The Varathi are coming back. I know, Taewon said. Next time it won't be a skirmish. It'll be their full strength. Can we win? We'll find out. In the darkness, the human fleet held position. And somewhere far away, the Varathi swarm gathered its strength, preparing to crush these strange creatures from the death world. The real battle was still coming. The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a crystal sphere that reflected the dying light of distant stars. Inside, 12 species gathered in silence. Their faces showed fear. Their worlds were burning. Chancellor Velrin stood at the center. His insect-like body trembled as he spoke. "We are losing this war. The Varathi have taken 47 worlds in 6 months. Our fleets are destroyed. Our people are dying." Around him, the representatives of the Galactic Union said nothing. What could they say? For 3,000 years, they had lived in peace. They built cities of light. They created art and music. They explored the stars with wonder, not weapons. War was something they read about in ancient histories, not something they understood. Then the Varathi came. A swarm of creatures that consumed everything. They didn't negotiate. They didn't stop. They just ate world after world, leaving nothing but dead rocks behind. Olmath, the crystalline luminar, spoke in his musical voice. "We have no options left. Our military academies closed 2,000 years ago. We don't know how to fight." "Then we find someone who does," said Velrin. He activated the display. A planet appeared, spinning slowly. It was blue and green and beautiful. "This is Earth, a Class 12 death world." The room went silent. Class 12 meant death. It meant a planet so violent that nothing should survive there. Gravity that crushed bones, weather that killed without warning, predators everywhere, disease, poison, a world that fought against life itself. "Nothing intelligent can evolve there," said one representative. "But something did," Velrin replied. "We detected their signals 50 years ago. We ignored them because we thought it was impossible. Now we have no choice." The debate lasted hours. Some feared these creatures from a death world. What kind of monsters survived on a planet that tried to kill them every day? Others argued they had nothing left to lose. Finally, they voted. The message was sent into the void. "We are dying. If you can hear this, we need allies. Please help us." They waited. Hours passed. The representatives prepared to return to their doomed worlds. Then the response came. Coordinates received. Fleet deploying. Hold position. 6 words. Cold. Simple. Military. Velrin felt something strange. Hope mixed with fear. The humans arrived 3 days later. First came a small ship, sleek and dark. It docked with Sanctuary Prime, their last orbital station. Velrin went to meet them with his advisors. The airlock opened. 2 humans stepped through. Velrin had seen the images, but nothing prepared him for the reality. They walked upright on 2 legs like many species. But there the similarity ended. Their eyes faced forward. Predator eyes that tracked movement. Their mouths held both flat grinding teeth and sharp tearing teeth. Their bodies were thick with muscle under their skin. The male human spoke first. "I'm Ambassador Taiwan. This is Dr. Jisoo, our xenobiologist." His voice was deep and calm. "We received your distress call." Jisoo smiled. Velrin noticed her teeth. So many teeth. "We're here to help," she said. Her voice was softer, but something in her eyes suggested steel underneath. The meeting room was designed for comfort, but the humans made it feel small. Taiwan sat with perfect stillness like a predator waiting. Jisoo moved with fluid grace, examining everything with those forward-facing eyes. "Tell us about the Varathi," Taiwan said. Velrin explained. "The swarm, the consumption, the losses." As he spoke, he watched the humans. Their faces barely moved, but their eyes grew harder. "How many ships can you spare?" Velrin asked. "Even 100 would help. Even 50. Taiwan looked at Jisoo. Something passed between them, some silent communication. Then he turned back to Velrin. "All of them," he said. "We're bringing 2,000 warships." The room froze. 2,000. The entire Union at its height had only 800 vessels total. And this one species from one death world had 2,000 warships just ready to deploy? "Why?" Olmath asked. "Why do you have so many weapons during peace?" Taiwan's expression didn't change. "Because peace doesn't last if you can't defend it. On Earth, we learned that lesson many times. We decided to be ready." "What kind of world creates warriors like you?" Velrin whispered. "One that doesn't give you a choice," Jisoo answered. "Earth tried to kill us in a million different ways, weather, predators, disease, other humans. We survived because we learned to fight back. We learned to protect each other. We learned that being strong meant you could defend the weak." Taiwan stood. Even that simple movement carried controlled power. "Your people value peace. That's beautiful. We value it too. But someone has to stand between peace and those who would destroy it. We'll be that someone." "When will your fleet arrive?" Velrin asked. "They're already here," Taewon said. The display activated. Outside Sanctuary Prime, space was filled with ships. Hundreds of them, thousands, dark and angular, built for war. They moved in perfect formation, a dance of controlled violence. The Union representatives stared. Some felt relief. Others felt a different kind of fear. They had called for help. But what had they invited into their peaceful galaxy? Captain Hyun's voice came through the communications. This is the Human Defense Fleet. We have defensive positions established. Long-range sensors show Varathi advance elements 3 days out. A pause. We'll be ready. Velrun looked at the human ships. So many, so ready for violence. Then he looked at Taewon and Jisoo. He saw something in their eyes that the Union had lost long ago. Purpose. Determination. The willingness to face horror so others didn't have to. Why? He asked again. Why would you risk so much for strangers? Jisoo stepped forward. Her eyes were gentle despite everything. Because someone has to. Because it's right. Because on Earth we have a saying, evil triumphs when good people do nothing. We're not doing nothing. Taewon nodded. We're Deathworlders. Our planet tried to kill us every day. We survived by being tougher, faster, meaner than anything that hunted us. But we also survived by protecting each other. By standing together. He looked at each representative. You're under our protection now. The Varathi will learn what that means. Outside, the human fleet waited, 2,000 ships holding position. And somewhere in the dark, the Varathi swarm approached, expecting another easy meal. They had never met humans before. The galaxy was about to change,